Welcome to MMA Fancast. I am Luke, and I am honored to have Cash the dog and his friend Cheyenne Hall on the show. Good morning, Cash and Cheyenne.
Good morning. Cash has a lot to say to the neighborhood cat, so he'll be back. He's very intense about it, you know.
Yes. Well, we'll hear him protect you from the neighborhood cats as we do.
I'm lucky to have him, really.
Yes, you are. He keeps you safe. I should have said longtime friend of the show, Cheyenne. I've been following you, and you've been kind enough to do a bunch of interviews about your fight career. This is exciting because you're about ready to make your pro debut. So round of applause for you. And you always have so much energy and excitement. So let's just let you loose. Talk about what it's like. You're on a 2-fight win streak, both of them being knockouts, both for belts. Super exciting. Changed your gym, and then the wins started piling up. What's it like to be a month away from your pro debut?
It's really exciting. It's been a long time coming for this decision, and I've been lucky enough to get the go ahead from everybody to make the jump up to pro, and I'm just excited to see what I can do on that stage with the 5-minute rounds and being able to use all my weapons and head kicks and knees and elbows and all that. So I'm really excited to make this new life chapter happen.
Well, I'm excited because of how excited you are. You fought for 247 before. You've also fought for a lot of regional MMA promotions. I think it's special and fun that you're making your pro debut for 247 at the Meadows Brawl in the Burgh 12, July 9th. Super exciting. You spent a lot of time in West Virginia. You've recently moved up to Pittsburgh. So I'm assuming that's a perfect location for your West Virginia fans and your Pittsburgh fans to kind of meet in the middle. So
yes, that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping some of my Morgantown buddies will be able to make it up, and then it's good for as far as my teammates go. It's not too far away for them either. So I'm hoping I can get a bunch of people to come out and support me.
And you mentioned that some of the big changes to go pro is the round length. You had been fighting 3 3s as advanced amateur. Now it's 3 5s. So let's start there. And then we'll talk about the weapons you're now allowed to use. So what's training and conditioning like? You're a professional pharmacist. You've got a lot of mental know-how, and clearly you think things through. So what's the strategy or the plan to make sure your cardio and your conditioning is there?
Oh, training at the Mat Factory period is kind of make sure your cardio is there. They push you every day. Isaac's always in there making sure that if we're going to get tired, we get tired before we ever make it into the cage. So I feel like my training it had an uptick a little bit, but we always train to just make sure we never gas in a fight. And I do spar at Stout on Saturdays, and we almost always do 5-minute rounds there. So I do feel more prepared than I think I would have under different circumstances going into this fight. I think that, I train with a lot of pros too, so it helps that we use their round time. So I'm more ready for it than you'd think maybe, but I'm still excited to have a little bit more time. I think with 5-minute rounds versus 3 or 2-minute rounds, I think you have a lot more time to use jiu-jitsu. 2 or 3 minutes, it's kind of hard to get somebody down to the ground and start doing jiu-jitsu stuff sometimes, but 5 minutes allows you a little bit more leeway and time. So.
And speaking of jiu-jitsu, we'll get back to MMA in a second. Have you done submission only jiu-jitsu where it's limitless time? Is that something that you kind of like, where you can work longer on stuff? Is that one of the things you're bringing up?
Yeah, I have. I've done submission only tournaments in the past. They're pretty fun. And I would like to go back and do one now as an upper belt. I think my last one I did, I was a blue belt or a white belt, but I think the longest time it took me to submit somebody was 18 minutes. It was so long. I just remember thinking oh man, they really mean we're going to go until we get a submission, huh?
Many years ago, some of my guys were on a submission only, no time limit at the Tropicana in Atlantic City, which is a great venue. But anyhow, they had 2 pro heavyweights that went over an hour and 20 minutes. And there were times where you could tell that the heavyweights were kind of hey, we're just going to take a little break. We'll just and you could kind of tell they were just we'll get back at it in 5 minutes, take 5. But it was really exciting to kind of see some of that. One of the things you mentioned is training at the Mat Factory. That is a high level gym, whether you're brand new. And we always say this, if you're brand new to MMA, you're as amateur as they get. You have no experience. still going to gyms like Stout, like the Mat Factory, like the Academy. There are some great gyms in the Pittsburgh area that take people from literally complete novices all the way up to championship pros. And you can't say that about every gym. So it's nice that you're connected so well to the Mat Factory and to Stout. You've also mentioned before your training partner, Edwin Vera. How's he doing? How are you guys training for this? Is he a big part of this getting you ready for your debut like he has been in other fights?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Edwin's always one of my favorite training partners because, well, one, he's closer to my size than most of the other guys at the Mat Factory, but two, the energy that he brings to any room is, you can't be in a bad mood around Edwin. You can't. I mean, I've tried, it's hard. But yeah, just especially in like the heat of the last few weeks at fight camp, it's, everybody, you're cutting weight and you're kind of testy, and you need a guy like Edwin in there to lighten up the mood sometimes.
He
For
is.
sure.
He is a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun as a person. He's a lot of fun in the cage himself. And you've given him credit before. And I do know, any gym has to kind of make sure that they have good sized sparring partners. Sometimes it's tricky if you're really big. It's tricky if you're 125. It can be tough sometimes to kind of find those sizes. So it's great that you found the gym you have. We've talked about the minutes going up to instead of a max of 9 minutes, although you were finishing them faster than that, to now a max of 15. So that's a big difference. But another big thing, and you rattled them off, is you really showed a lot of success when you were allowed closed fist strikes to the ground, right? On the ground, when you were allowed the advanced amateur rules, you showed a lot of success in what is sort of classically Randy Couture ground and pound, or Mark Coleman ground and pound, which is super exciting. But you rattled off knees to the head, kicks to the head, and elbows, all being legal, both standing and on the ground as far as elbows go. Out of that group, which is a huge group of strikes that you're now allowed, what do you think is the most fun? It's a two-part question. What do you think is the most fun to train? And what do you think would be the most important to use in a fight? So it's a two-part question.
I think the most fun to train is probably knees. I don't know. You can sneak those in there sometimes whenever like people aren't ready for it, and they're kind of fun to train. It's hard to spar with elbows unless you've got like pads and you've got a sparring partner you trust, for sure. But I think that would probably be the most important utilized as far as like ground and pound goes specifically, because sometimes you're kind of jammed in the way that you're holding your opponent down, and you've got elbows now that you can use, and it's a shorter weapon. So I think that is going to be a little helpful there. But I definitely like to train knees.
Well, that's a really good breakdown. You also bring up the fact that training certain weapons is not really sparring partner friendly, and we've seen at the highest levels, you only keep getting better if you keep your sparring partner safe. Now, there's a certain risk everybody takes, but we're not going to go into the UFC rumors, but there's been fighters who have left gyms because they were hurting too many of their opponents, and you just can't do that. You can't end somebody's career or give them brain trauma and things like that when they're just there to help you get better. But you did mention short elbows. I think that's something that I always want to point out. In ground and pound, if you rear back for a huge elbow, yes, that can be very devastating, but it also can upseat your balance and your hips. But what you're talking about is when you putting pressure down, you can kind of cut and chop with the elbows. And we've seen that become more and more used at the high levels. Is that something that you've kind of watched at the UFC level, Bellator, and others at the high levels that you want to use now? Or is that something that you're kind of developing on your own style? I'm assuming you do ground body bag work where they throw a body bag on the ground and then you can kind of be free with that.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as I've done that style of like training ground and pound, I've kind of tried to incorporate those a little bit, because you're right, you can rear back for a really big one, but then you're losing position a lot of the times. So that's not a trade-off I'm willing to make most of the time. I want to stay in there, and could maintain control of my opponent. So yeah, I've trained that for sure. I've seen a lot of people do it really good in the UFC, so I try to take that and incorporate it into my training as well as I can. But it's definitely something I'm looking to utilize.
It is just so exciting. When you're making your pro debut, what do you think is the most fulfilling part of it? I mean, obviously, you're an excitable person. This is a dream come true. You've been training for years. This is something you do because you love it, because obviously you're bivocational, you have another job. So what to you makes this so exciting? What are you going to look forward to the most for July 9th?
Honestly, the thing that I'm looking forward to probably the most is just to challenge myself. As corny as that sounds, but like you said, like I don't have to do this. I do this because I thoroughly enjoy it. It's something that presents like a physical challenge to me like none other that I have ever found in my life. And it's also one of those things that it really rewards you if you put the time in. So I'm just looking forward to going in there and proving to myself that I deserve to be in there, that I am pro level, and getting this win for my team.
Well, that is the perfect wrap up to this great interview. Can't wait to see all the Mat Factory people. It's always busy when you have the Mat Factory on a card. Brawl in the Burgh 12, the debut of 247 Fighting Championships at the Meadows. I think it's going to be incredible. I know 247 is really going to do the absolute best to put on an incredible card. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for letting us see Cash. I know he's such a sweetie, and you're always excited about him. So can't wait to see you in action July 9th. This is where I throw out to people, get tickets from the Mat Factory people, get tickets from Cheyenne, get tickets anywhere you can. Also, there will be, for those that might be too far away, there will be a pay-per-view on 247fighting.com. Thanks so much, Cheyenne and Cash, for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one.